The conversation happened away from the cameras and microphones were waiting. No reporters were standing nearby. But when the details began circulating around professional golf, one thing became clear. The future direction of the PGA Tour was once again being questioned. And this time, the attention focused on one of the most influential players in the world, Rory McIlroy. For years, Rory has been more than just a golfer chasing trophies. He became one of the strongest voices in the sport during its most uncertain period. When professional golf entered a battle over its future, Rory stepped forward. When many players stayed quiet, he defended his beliefs. He answered difficult questions. And he became one of the faces of a changing generation. That is why every conversation connected to Rory creates immediate attention. Because Rory's influence is different. He is not only judged by his performance on the course, he is judged by his opinions, his leadership, and his vision for where professional golf should go next. When Rory speaks, players listen, fans react, and executives pay attention. But the PGA Tour is entering a period where every decision carries more pressure than ever before. The sport has changed dramatically. The rise of LIV Golf created a division nobody expected. Players made career-changing decisions. Fans became divided. And the traditional structure of professional golf faced questions that had been building for years. The biggest battles in golf were no longer only happening during tournaments. They were happening in meetings, behind closed doors, between players, executives, sponsors, and organizations trying to decide what the future should look like. And that is where Rolapp entered the conversation. Rolapp represents a completely different approach to leadership in professional golf. His background comes from sports media, business strategy, and understanding how modern audiences consume entertainment. He comes from a world where success depends on growth, innovation, and connecting with fans in new ways. To many supporters, that is exactly what the PGA Tour needs. Golf cannot ignore reality. Fans watch sports differently now. Streaming has changed everything. Social media has changed everything. Younger audiences have more choices than ever before. The PGA Tour is no longer competing only against other golf events. It is competing against every form of entertainment available around the world. But that creates another difficult question. How do you modernize golf without changing what makes golf special? Because professional golf has always been built on more than business. It is built on history. It is built on tradition. It is built on moments that connect generations of fans. The major championships, the legendary rivalries, the unforgettable Sunday finishes. Those things cannot simply be replaced by new strategies or financial plans. And this is where Rory McIlroy's position becomes so interesting, because Rory has always represented both sides of the debate. He understands the importance of tradition. He respects the history of the game. But he also understands that golf cannot remain exactly the same forever. The sport needs evolution. It needs new fans. It needs better ways to connect with audiences. It needs to find a place in the modern sports world. The problem is deciding how far that change should go. That has become the biggest challenge facing PGA Tour leadership. Executives often look at the future through numbers. Revenue, media rights, audience growth, global expansion. Players often look at the future differently. They think about competition, schedules, career opportunities, and whether their voices are being heard. Both sides want professional golf to succeed, but they do not always agree on the path to get there. And that disagreement has created tension, because players are no longer simply competitors. They are business partners. They are brands. They are some of the biggest voices shaping the sport. Rory McIlroy understands this better than almost anyone. Over the last few years, he has experienced the pressure of being a public leader. Every statement has been analyzed. Every interview has created headlines. Every opinion has been connected to the larger battle over golf's future. That is a difficult position, because leadership means more than sharing opinions. It means dealing with the consequences of those opinions. And Rory has found himself at the center of that responsibility. The question surrounding the PGA Tour is not whether change is coming. Everyone knows change is coming. The real question is who gets to decide what that change looks like. Will executives create the future based on business strategy? Will players have enough influence over the direction of the sport? Or will the answer require both sides working together? That is a challenge facing Rolapp. Because rebuilding professional golf is not just about creating a stronger business model. It is about rebuilding trust. Players need confidence. Fans need clarity. Sponsors need stability. And the sport itself needs a direction that people can believe in. That is why Rory McIlroy's voice matters so much. He represents the players who will compete in this new era. He represents the fans who want golf to remain meaningful. And he represents a generation that wants the sport to grow without losing its identity. But the biggest question remains unanswered. Does the future being created by PGA Tour leadership match the future Rory McIlroy believes in? Because supporting change is one thing. Supporting every change is something completely different. And as professional golf moves toward its next chapter, the gap between those two ideas could become the biggest challenge the sport has faced yet. The reaction across professional golf was immediate. Fans wanted answers. Analysts started debating what the future of the PGA Tour would actually look like. And once again, every discussion returned to the same question. What role would Rory McIlroy play in shaping the next era of the sport? Because Rory's influence has reached a level few players ever achieve. He is not just another competitor. He is one of the faces of modern golf. When he talks about the game, people do not only hear the opinion of a player, they hear the perspective of someone who has been directly involved in the biggest battles affecting professional golf. Someone who has seen the sport from inside the ropes and inside the conversations that shape its future. That is why every disagreement involving players and executives creates so much attention. The relationship between leadership and athletes has changed. In the past, players mostly focused on competing. Executives made decisions. Fans watched the results. But modern sports operate differently. Players have platforms. They have influence. They have direct relationships with millions of fans. And that means their voices cannot simply be ignored. Rory McIlroy represents that change. He represents a generation of players who want to be involved in decisions that affect their careers. They want financial growth. They want global opportunities. They want the sport to become stronger. But they also want transparency. They want to know where the game is heading. And they want to feel that the people making decisions understand what players experience. That is where the tension becomes complicated, because executives and players often want the same result, a stronger future for golf. But they may have different ideas about how to get there. Executives may focus on long-term business strategy. Players may focus on immediate competitive concerns. Fans may focus on tradition and entertainment. Every group sees the future through a different lens. And finding common ground has become the biggest challenge facing professional golf. The LIV Golf situation showed exactly how difficult that balance can be. Before LIV, many disagreements inside golf remained private, but after a rival organization entered the picture, every issue became public. Players had choices. Organizations had pressure. Fans had opinions. The sport became divided in a way nobody expected. And even now, the effects of that division continue influencing every major decision. That is why Brian Rolapp's role carries so much importance. His challenge is not simply improving the business side of the PGA Tour. His challenge is helping unite a sport that has experienced years of uncertainty. He must create growth without creating more division. He must modernize without damaging tradition. He must convince players and fans that the future direction of golf is something they can support. And that may be the hardest part, because trust is difficult to build, especially after years of disagreement. For Rory McIlroy, this moment represents another test of leadership. Being a leader is not only about having strong opinions. It is about finding solutions when people disagree. It is about understanding different perspectives. And it is about making difficult decisions when there is no perfect option. Rory has experienced that pressure firsthand. There have been moments when fans praise his honesty. There have been moments when critics question his decisions. But through everything, one thing has remained clear. Rory cares deeply about the future of golf. That is why his role continues to attract so much attention. Because the question is not whether Rory wants a sport to succeed. The question is what success should look like. Should golf become more like other major sports? More entertainment-focused? More global? More commercially aggressive? Or should it protect the traditions that separate it from every other sport? That debate is not going away, and it may define the next decade of professional golf. The answer will require balance. Because a sport that refuses to change can become irrelevant, but a sport that changes too much can lose the identity that made people love it. The greatest challenge is finding the middle ground, a future where young fans discover golf in new ways, where players feel respected, where legends are honored, where history remains important. That is the future many people inside golf are trying to create. And that is why every conversation involving Rory McIlroy and PGA Tour leadership receives so much attention. Because this is not only about one player, it is about the direction of an entire sport. Rory represents the players. Brian Rolapp represents a new approach to leadership. The PGA Tour represents decades of history, and the fans represent the reason all of it matters. The next chapter of golf will be shaped by how these different forces work together. Because the biggest battle in professional golf is no longer about who wins the trophy on Sunday. It is about deciding what kind of sport those players will be competing in years from now. And that decision will define the legacy of everyone involved. So the question remains, can Rory McIlroy and PGA Tour leadership find common ground? Can modern business strategy and player influence work together? Or will this become another chapter in golf's ongoing battle over its future? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. The decisions being made today will not just affect the current generation of golfers. They will shape the game for the next generation. And when history looks back at this era of professional golf, it will not only remember the tournaments that were won, it will remember the choices that changed the sport forever. So now we want to hear from you. Do you think players like Rory McIlroy should have more influence over the future of professional golf? Or should executives lead the direction of the sport? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed documentary-style golf stories exploring the biggest decisions, players, and moments shaping the future of the game, subscribe for more deep breakdowns.